All right. Can I have a motion to go back into open, please? So moved. Mr. Sweeney, second?
Second.
I'll go with Dr. Peak. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are back in open. Before we carry on with the agenda, just a couple of quick announcements. One, Ms. McGee is going to be arriving late. She has, her son Miles is celebrating his 6th birthday today, so they had a dinner planned for tonight, so she's going to be coming a little late. Also, 2 other quick announcements. Our April work session, which was scheduled for April 11th, will be moved to April 10th due to a conflict, and April 18th public meeting will be moved to April 17th, and that will be held at the high school, and that was to accommodate a presentation that we want to get done. So just Steve will be re-announcing those meetings and republishing them in the paper. So we'll move on to letter F, presenters, student representatives. First up is Ms. Van Orden.
Good evening. My name is Michaela Van Orden, and I am a senior at Vernon Township High School. I would like to thank you for welcoming me to speak to you at this evening's Board of Education meeting. Here are some of the highlights from BTHS. The academic decathlon team had an impressive day in early February. The team finished 3rd place in Super Quiz, 3rd place in our region, and 7th place in the state. Christian Fieldhouse took home 3rd place as an overall decathlete. We wish the team the best of luck as they prepare for their upcoming state competition. Congratulations to the students who were inducted and or recognized at our English Honor Society induction on February 26th. Congratulations to the students who were inducted into the Mathematics Honor Society on February 25th. And congratulations to all of our students who were inducted into the Psychology Honor Society on March 5th. Viking Robotics Team 1989 overcame several obstacles this past weekend to advance to the semifinals at the Mount Olive First competition. Neither snow nor broken parts nor daylight savings time could stop the ingenuity of our team's electronics board, 3D printed parts, and driving skill from getting us well on our way to the regional competition at Lehigh University. The team is looking forward to our next competition at Montgomery High School during the last weekend of March, where we hope to build on our momentum, newfound alliances, and progress. We are excited to report that our marching band has been invited to march up 5th Avenue once again this year. This year we are scheduled to step off in a place of honor at the beginning of the parade, right behind Mayor Bill de Blasio of New York City and the Honorable Andrew M. Cuomo, the Governor of the State of New York. We are hoping to be seen on television this year. We have invited Alex McCann, one of our freshmen, who would like to entertain you with a few songs for St. Patrick's Day. He began playing the bagpipes just 2 years ago while a student at Glen Meadow Middle School.
Great job.
We are excited about Project Self-Sufficiency's Vernon pop-up shop, who will be bringing their RV filled with prom dresses and accessories to our high school so that every girl may have the opportunity to choose items for our upcoming proms free of charge. They'll be parked behind the senior cafeteria from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., and we are very grateful that they are bringing this wonderful experience to us. We are also looking forward to this year's spring musical 9 to 5. Tickets are available online for our performances next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We are currently preparing for this year's Shark Tank/Hackathon, scheduled for Friday, March 29th through the night until Saturday morning, March 30th. Finally, as we enter the spring sports season, we would like to encourage you to review the athletics calendar. We have lots going on after school each day at the high school, and all of our coaches and athletes love enthusiastic fans. Thank you for inviting us to this month's Board of Education meeting. We will see you again next month.
The next item is we're going to have 3 singers from 9 to 5, but unfortunately some bug has hit the 9 to 5 half, and 2 of the 3 of them are sick. So let's hope that all clears up by next Wednesday when they open up for the seniors. We'll move on to Glen Meadow, student representatives from Mrs. Stigler's class.
Students here from all 3 of the lab classes. We have the 6th graders from Innovations Lab, or from Foundations Lab, the 7th graders from Innovations Lab, and the 8th graders from Creations Lab. And they're going to tell you a little bit about some of the projects they've been doing.
Great. Who's going to start?
So I'm Katarina Dorsey. I'm in 6th grade.
And I'm Rebecca Briesehoff. I'm also in 6th grade.
We did a project in our Foundations Lab class that was, well, we all designed glasses for a brand called Marcolin, which one of our classmates' moms worked for, Miss Gass. And, yeah.
So the students could go in 2 pairs or by themselves, and we each made our own design of glasses, so we could choose any style. And it was cool to write about how they would be made and like the measurements. And we also got to choose our own colors and embellishments.
We then made a prototype out of paper with the size we wanted and the colors we wanted. It was interesting seeing all the different, like, variety of glasses that different groups made, because they were all so different in their own way. And
in your classroom, you had them all lined up, and
yeah,
people were voting on them.
and
yeah,
people got to vote which ones were the best.
Right.
and yeah, in the end, we got 1st place. Who got
Congratulations!
And then Amanda and Gigi got 2nd place, and Abigail got 3rd place. Yeah. And so they're being prototyped in the company.
Do you have a sample now?
We have a paper showing what they look like.
Show us. Show
Yeah, you're not going to wear them for us?
So the paper prototype is actually with Mrs. Gass at the Markham and Eyewear Company, and they are sending it off overseas to be prototyped.
Wow. That's wonderful. Oh, I need a pair.
Oh, those are cool. I like those.
Thank you.
These are nice.
To read.
I like that. The irony. Really nice.
Great job, Rose.
Good job.
Thank you.
I'm Caitlin Pitak.
I'm Michael Evanick, and we're in the 7th grade in Innovations Lab class.
this marking period, the past 2 marking periods, we've been participating in a school innovation challenge. And we interviewed students and teachers to see if there was anything in the school that they would want to see fixed or changed. And my group figured out that many of the students dislike coming to the school because they feel like they're trapped. So we came up with, if we could change the color of the hallways from the like boring gray and white to exciting colors like red and orange and all the colors of the rainbow, that maybe students would be more excited to come into school and they would feel more comfortable. And we even created surveys to see what colors that they would want to see in the school. Michael focused more on spreading positivity through murals.
And mottos and designs. I wanted to create a more positive environment to our school, so it's more inviting to other people. I also wanted to get like the art club to like create designs and interactive projects for the school, and maybe even contests like the this Mountain Creek one where you designed the helmet logo. Yeah. There's also this thing me and my friend were discussing, the Glen Meadow yeah. We were discussing this hero board thing because we thought the Meadow money was kind of an underachievement. We just thought it didn't make you feel good about doing something good for other people. And so what the hero board is like if a teacher or somebody else sees a student in Glen Meadow doing something kind or different, they would ask for their name, get a picture and a little explanation of what they did, what that was so special, and have a little board like somewhere in the lobby or somewhere everybody passes when they enter Glen Meadow, and would say what could you do to be a hero?
Great. Thank you.
I'm James Logie. I'm Caden Hall. And we were in the grade 8 creations lab classes, and we were working on many like fun projects that are also like complex, and they support like critical thinking skills and things like that. Okay, you can't really see my face with this. And one project we were working on was recess games and activities, because Mrs. Davenport, one of the gym teachers, asked for more activities during recess once kids are inside, to like get them off their Chromebooks more and have them like interact with other people instead of just playing games. Okay. So one game we created was Block Tower, which was our version of Jenga, and it's right over there. It's like if we painted it gold and blue because that's the colors of Vernon. And we were hoping to create like a much larger version because that's kind of bigger scale than Jenga, but we want to create a much larger version for outdoor games so people can play outside as well as inside.
With what, like 6x6s?
Yeah, something very big. And another outdoor game we were going to play, and that Mrs. Dav wanted specifically, was 9 Square in the Air, which was like 4 square, but raised, and there were 9 boxes. And your goal is to make it to the center instead of make it to 4, but we need a lot of PVC piping, if anyone has that to donate.
You can't afford it.
So, that's one of our needs. And we also created, when we created this, we created a class logo for it, which is, here, Kate, go over there. Hold it up.
So the colors are kind of dark, so you can't really see it, but this is our class logo right there. I created it. I didn't really have any inspiration for it. I just kind of like, I just went into Google Drawings and just, that create is just a cool way to like create, I guess, for a creations lab. That's really it. The colors are yellow and blue for Vernon, more like gold and blue. And yeah, that's really it for that.
One other project we're doing is a product like the Shark Tank, like some other students are doing, And all we were told to tell you is our project is BITE Nutritional Measuring. Thank you.
All of the students are working on Shark Tank projects, and they were told that they can tell you what their project is, but you have to come out on the 29th at the high school to see a little bit more detail about their projects and ask them about them. But they're all involved in different projects, so you'll share what the name of your projects are.
Okay, that's March 29th?
March 29th at the high school, yes.
I'm creating a sort of pocket knife type thing for everyday use that includes a fork, knife, and spoon, along with salt and pepper that you can take off, so when you wash it, it obviously doesn't get wet. That is
Good.
to help the environment. It saves water, and it keeps people from using waste like plastic spoons and forks getting in the ocean and polluting, because that's a large problem today.
Good. Good for you.
What me and my partner are doing is like a band night where we're raising money for the band room in Glen Meadow to have sound panels, because it can help the band improve their playing, because it's hard to do it in the concrete because it just makes the sound bounce off.
All right, very good.
Very
Sounds great.
I'm creating a secret wallet. It's a wallet that only you know about and no one else does. So
Is the money in it secret too, or?
yeah, you could keep like $200 in there and no one would know.
I'm making comfortable, stress-relieving game controller grips because I'm not sure if it's me or just other people, but I get stressed and end up throwing my controller across the room.
So this is just a small preview of the almost 50 projects that we have to present that night.
Oh, outstanding.
That's
Great job. Okay, next up is Mr. Fury to discuss the lead and water and possible solutions that we have throughout the district.
Good evening, everybody. Whoa, that's a tough act to follow.
Maybe they can create something for you.
I think I'm going to hire each and every one of them to work for us. They got great ideas. It was very creative. That's the kind of creativity that we need. So tonight I was asked to come and speak about the lead in drinking water. Recently, it was about a couple weeks ago, I sat on a panel for the New Jersey Spotlight, and Steve was at the event down in Hamilton. It was the purpose of the panel was to talk about lead in drinking water for schools. There was recently a $500 million bond that was passed last November, and the purpose of it, $100 million of it was, the purpose was to go towards the lead in schools issue. So it was Senator Greenstein, Valerie Wilson from the Newark Board of Ed, the administrator for Board of Ed, who we worked with down in the city of Newark, myself, and there was a representative from the Contractors Association. He was a former assistant commissioner of the DEP, and and also there was a speaker from Chicago who came out, and it was an engineer from Chicago, and gave a presentation, and he had some innovative ways to deal with the lead issues. One of the more fascinating things that he presented at the conference, what they're working on, and they have quite a bit of schools in Chicago, as you can imagine. They're working on a system, automatic flushing systems, that they're trying to integrate into their schools to deal with the lead in school issues. One of the other things that they're looking at is improving the treatment for the schools and try to reduce lead in drinking water. So if you don't know, there's a few things that you can do to mitigate lead in drinking water for schools. One is to remove the plumbing fixtures, and also to place lead NSF filters in line. And another possible way is to treat your source right at the well. There's a lot of schools locally that they treat with a chemical called orthophosphate. It's a very common type treatment. A lot of municipal systems use it. We Agra, I'm the owner of Agra Environmental, and we're a certified lab. We also operate some schools in Sussex County. Jefferson has a couple treatment systems in place. West Milford, High Point it's fairly common for wells that feed a school to put some kind of treatment in there to help protect the pipes. Now, these are the options that you have. In my opinion, probably the most effective option is to install an orthophosphate feed system. It would be located right at the entrance to the school where it comes up from the well. Lead does not occur naturally in the well. It's mostly, it can come from two sources. It can come from the lead service line that comes from the well to the school, or what they call premise plumbing, which is plumbing inside the school. So it's very difficult to locate. You can test a location one day, and the next day you can get a totally different result. That's just the nature of lead. You can take the first sample and get a high result. You can take a second sample, third sample, and you can get different results. So it is a very difficult thing to locate to where the problems are. But one of the options that you have is to treat right at the source, right into the school. And this is one of the Steve asked me to possibly look into putting something together, some kind of program where you can do that. I did check into the permitting issues. One of the things that the school has to do if you want to propose this type of treatment is you have to get approval from the DEP. You have to put a plan into the DEP. They approve that plan. Once that plan comes back, they approve it. You take that plan and then you submit another permit application to the county. So the county is the local agency that oversees all the drinking water systems in Sussex County. They have the enforcement authority to do that, and you submit a permit application to the county. It may have to be done by a licensed engineer. We did check into that, and the permit application goes into the county. It gets approved. Then you can install the treatment, and it does take. Once you install the treatment, it does take a while for the pipes to coat. And the way it works is the chemical and phosphate. I know you get this question a lot about phosphate. It's naturally found in a lot of food items. If you I always say pick up a can of Coke and you'll actually see one of the ingredients says phosphoric acid. It's very common. It's an anti-corrosion chemical. It's commonly used in water treatment systems, and it's commonly used in
So
schools.
we wouldn't move from concern of lead to concern of phosphate.
Well, there's always a concern of an additive. And it is approved by what they call the NSF, National Sanitation Foundation. It's approved by the EPA. It's approved by the DEP. It's a common type chemical that's found in food products. But there is, there's a concern because it's a chemical additive, and I've heard some towns have opposed to it. They don't like the idea of a chemical additive. But the way it works is you inject it into the water supply, and that chemical essentially coats the insides of the pipe, and it prevents the release of lead. So that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to prevent that leaching of lead into the water. So it coats. That's essentially how it works. And there is a concern about the health effects, but those concerns are taken care of by the EPA and the DEP, and it's perfectly legitimate. So one of the we were working with the city of Newark, and they had some issues down in the city. The city is considering adding phosphate into their water supply to coat the pipes, and in their process of doing that. And so that's one of the ways they're going to remediate. The city of Trenton's doing the same thing. It's very common type chemical, but that's something that Steve asked me to look into. And one of the school that there's most concern is Lounsbury.
We have one well that comes up. It's between Lounsbury and Rolling Hills. There's the well house comes up and then it splits. So what we want to do is install a system going to Lounsbury and then a second one going to Rolling Hills and call that a pilot program.
Right, yeah, and then that's one of the things that we talked about. It's like, like you don't have to necessarily do it to all the schools. You could do it at one school, see how it goes, how it runs, and if it's successful, and the success is after you add the chemical, you wait a couple months and coat the pipes. If you get positive results, then you might want to consider moving to possibly other schools.
Why couldn't you just add one system?
Because there's two different. The well comes in. And there's two, it splits and feeds two different schools.
One takes a right, one takes a left, so we
Yeah, but can't you put it before it splits?
Well, we don't.
I don't think you can.
I don't know, but what we don't want to do is put it in the pit, so we have to come down into the pit every time we want to inject, because I don't know how frequently we would put the chemical in the system.
Well, it was going to be, is it a continuous injection?
It's a continuous injection. It's similar to, I think you chlorinate at that well, right?
Chlorinate at the high school.
Yes.
Or you just
No,
chlorinate that one
all of
too?
our wells.
Yeah, it's similar to chlorine. Like you have a tank, it's made up of a tank. You dilute the chemical into the tank, you have a chemical pump, it injects right into the line. It's triggered by a meter, so it's
flow meter.
Yeah, so when the flow kicks on, the pump kicks on, the chemical kicks on, and then so you don't overdose. And then so, like what Steve is saying, if you put it at the two locations, at two pipes coming into the building, then you have a lot easier access. It does require a licensed operator, and we work with Ron Bisacco. He's your licensed operator. He takes care of the chlorination system. He does all the testing. It does require some sort of oversight, by a licensed operator, because you have to add chemical. You have to add the right amount. It's just like dosing chlorine. You have to know what to dose and what to put into the.
We can install it. We have our licensed plumber who would do the installation. So ultimately, we can handle permitting. We would have to get some engineering work done, I would imagine. I didn't realize that at the time.
Yeah, I did not realize when I checked. Unfortunately, when I checked into it, they do have a permit application process. It's possible that they won't require an engineer.
And no, I have no problem with that. The beauty is it's not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's ultimately just buying the equipment that we will install.
Well, it's covered by grant anyway, right?
Well, the grant's inaccessible.
Not yet.
We learned that as well.
Well, that's another.
I'm saying when the $100 million becomes available, isn't this part of the whole grant program?
That's correct. Well, one of the things we learned, and unfortunately, Senator Greenstein was she wrote the law, and when they were asked, the Department of Education did not show up to this panel discussion. They had no opinion. They did not show up. Senator Greenstein, her answer, and I don't know the status of it, is they have no idea how they're going to spend the money. There's no definitive plan. I mean, obviously, eventually they have to come up with a plan on how they're going to do it. Now, what I heard, the money is going to be towards districts that have a lead problem, that need the money. That's kind of what I heard. Where the most need is.
What constitutes a lead problem? Because out of 220 some odd outlets that we have 10 to 15 that are notoriously an issue. I mean, is that from the state standpoint considered?
The state standpoint is if you take your public water system, if you take 100 samples, 10% more than 10% is considered a problem. So if you have,
we're actually less than that.
If you have really honestly, if you take 100 samples, if 11 of them are over the limit, then you're out of compliance. Now you're currently in compliance.
What also working? The state has to sell bonds and ultimately take the loan. So I don't know that anyone knows where they're at in that process. But then secondly, when there is funds available for projects, in order to tap into the funding, you need to let the state know you have a project.
Correct.
I'd rather do this sooner than later, but by doing that, we may forfeit some funding. I don't know that I want to wait a year until the state comes up with guidance on how to tap into the fund. And I promise I won't hold you to this, but if you were to round up, what would the cost be for the equipment for each system?
$5,000 to $6,000
per system.
Per system.
So per building, and that's just for the initial setup. How much is the chemical to refill the tank?
The chemical ongoing, I probably guess a couple $100 a year.
And I know it's based on usage, but obviously a building like the high school is going to go through more than a building, say, Walnut Ridge.
Correct. It's the size of the school and the usage and the demand. Obviously, the high school has more. It's based on they have more population and probably more usage. You'll use more up at the high school, but and that chemical system might be sized a little bit different. That might be a rough estimate of $10,000 because of the size of the system. But the system here, Lounsbury, and you're looking at because basically what it is it's a tank for the chemical pump, and then an injection. It's similar to a chlorine system.
On the chemical pump, is there a micrometer that you can dial in on
it dials in speed
so
and stroke.
Over a period of time, we could probably fine-tune that per
Correct.
building and possibly use less.
Right. The way it works is when you initially add the chemical, you add a little bit more, you coat the pipes, you optimize it, and then you reduce it to what they call like an optimization dose. So you're essentially treating it just like any other water system. You're adding treatment and you're monitoring the treatment.
And
but
Mike, you've done this in Newark or West Milford, Jefferson. Have you seen this in a correct, completely, remediate an issue?
Yeah, we did it. A couple schools in West Milford have phosphate. I think Upper Greenwood Lake.
But his question,
and
you've seen that the lead readings
in the
testing water has been resolved.
Oh, definitely.
Eliminated?
Oh yeah, it's extremely effective. So there's two. You can adjust pH. That's one of the ways. In High Point High School, adjust the pH up and then stabilize the pH. That's one way. And the other effective way is adding phosphate. It's extremely effective. Like I mean, there's a possibility, and you can't guarantee this. Is that the way it'll work? You add the phosphate, you start testing. If you still have a problem and you can locate exactly where the issues, you can remove that fixture and then add a filter at that location. So instead of treating the whole school rather than just spot treating.
Yeah, and one of the issues, it was interesting because the gentleman from Chicago, he's tried everything. At first he had mentioned how he installed filters, but then one of his concerns is knowing exactly when you need to change the filter, because if you're using a lot of water, you might have to change it sooner than you thought. But then secondly, in his schools, in the summer months, the schools might get very hot because you're not running air conditioning. So that filter can deteriorate. And he referenced how it's possible it can turn into a biohazard. Now you have that leaching into your water. So
yeah, filters can collect bacteria. Unfortunately, they're little. They trap the bacteria. They trap lead. They can release lead. That was the issue down in the city of Newark. They didn't change the filters. I mean, Valerie Wilson clearly said that at the session that was the issue. They weren't maintaining those filters. They have a very good maintenance program now, and I don't know if you had a chance to talk to Valerie, but they're a model district for what they did because they took care of the problem. They aggressively went after it, and they have a pretty good program in place.
And we had 22 failures just in
Was it 22?
December and September alone.
I couldn't remember. It was like I just recall like 15 or something.
Some of them were just alarming numbers, like 9,700.
Yeah, that's 9,700 is extremely high. That's like almost 9 parts per million when the limit's 15. And the other thing is there's really no safe level lead. I mean that's the answer. There's no safe level lead, and it's difficult to remediate. But some of the numbers were pretty significantly high. I think that was in Lounsbury too, right?
That was Lounsbury Hollow Cafe.
Yeah, and I know the question comes up a lot. It's like, well, I tested one day, it was fine, and the next day it was okay. That's the nature of lead. It's
that
very
instrument. What's your instrument variability versus so what's the source of variation? Is it water flow?
We're down. We can detect down to 2 parts per billion. And then we have actually new instrumentation in the lab. We're looking to get certified. We can even go lower than that.
Right, but each sample
it's about plus or minus 20%.
Oh, that's huge. That's
lead
huge.
testing. Lead testing is there's a lot of variability. Like there's a lot of other tests that have very tight. It's not with lead. It can vary greatly. So
that's instrument variability.
That's instrument variability.
That 20%. So that 9
could be 20%.
Right.
Yeah, that could be
20%.
Plus or minus 20%.
And those that are passing. Not be passing.
Yeah, right. Those that are 13, 14 can be
right. That's right. They can easily fail the next round of testing. It's just that's the way it is. It's the nature of lead testing.
So you mentioned that the orthophosphates were an anti-corrosive.
Correct.
So we have very hard water.
Correct.
Here. What's the difference between that treatment versus just a water softening treatment that will
Well,
limit corrosive.
Well, yeah, what's interesting about some of the products, the phosphate products, you can specifically use a phosphate product that actually what they call sequesters the hardness, and it can kind of react with the hardness, and it can actually make the chemical very effective. I mean, the inventor of, Calgon was the manufacturer of phosphate, and Calgon is calcium gon. That's where the name Calgon came from. Okay. So it was specifically used to address calcium and hardness in water, and that's the way that works. So it's a softener. One of the bad things about a softener, if you put a softener in, you can actually take out the minerals and make the water more aggressive, and you can have a negative effect. And that has happened. Sometimes you put softeners in to take care of the hardness and it actually has the opposite effect. It actually makes water more aggressive. So I mean, the hardness builds up on the inside of the pipes, and it can destroy water heaters, but at the same time, if you remove the minerals, you can make it more aggressive. So,
does anybody have any other further questions?
You just said it takes a while for it to work, right? Coat, right?
About a month.
Okay.
About a month, and then and if you stop treating, it can take like a month to. You can actually, if you stop it, you can interrupt it. It can get worse. You can have release of lead. Oh,
okay. Huh. And how long ago did the work either on West Milford or Jefferson? How long ago did that take place? And has it been over a period of time where the lead has been gone?
Yeah, it's I think Upper Greenwood Lake, they had exceedances, and I think they're fully in compliance.
For how many years now?
Yeah,
I think it's probably been over 3 years. They did it about 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, West Milford, there's a couple schools that did it. Jefferson did it, and there's a couple daycare centers that we have this treatment. It's probably the most effective treatment to mitigate the lead problem. So if you want to proceed with it, then we'll have to put some proposal together and the costs that are associated with it. But that's something that if you're going to handle the permitting, then that won't be included. That's probably the most expensive part of the process, is going through the permitting process with the county, because they are very strict. And so they'll oversee it, they'll come out and inspect. They have to go through that approval process.
In worst case scenario, let's say the grant money's held up for years. This can come out of capital.
This I'm not. Within your budget, your current year's budget, my hope is to install these two systems out of this year's budget.
Out of the 18-19 budget?
Yeah, yes.
We have the money to do that.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't think 6,000 per was a lot of money. I mean, really. Right. I think I could fit that in the budget really without a problem.
Or you could. Okay.
Plus, you have a budget for lead testing, right? Which exceeds what is required, right? We test twice a year, every outlet. So theoretically, if we do this, some of that, I mean, it's good to test. Go down to 1 a year.
That's right.
Because the state requirement was only once every 5 years, wasn't it?
Once every 6.
Once every 6. So I mean, we as a board decided to do it twice a year just for protection.
And the test,
it does give us a little leeway to do that if we want to.
And the cost is the lab fees. So.
Yeah, the lab fees, the cost of the treatment, chemical. They're just to keep in mind, there might be some oversight kind of fees from the licensed operator.
Yeah.
It requires. I mean, the people from the school can do it. A lot of the schools that we work with, they do it themselves, but it has to be watched over by a licensed operator.
Correct. I mean, to your point, the health safety is paramount. So I can't imagine not doing this. We do it a pilot program. I think it'll work. We're going to do it in Lounsbury, which is our worst. This is the most challenging school.
Correct.
And we install it. We wait the month. We test it, see how it went, and expand if we want to.
Do you have all the information that you need, or is there more you still have to gather to present to us?
To present what?
To present the project of doing this.
Yeah, I haven't put the proposal together.
All right,
but
so
I wanted to come here tonight and get a feel for what exactly is needed before I put.
I mean, it's going to be a cost proposal. It'll be working with the county to get the permit. I do want to look into the engineering, because that'll be a piece if we need someone to.
Right.
Correct.
I don't know if we can do that in-house. I don't know how.
Just has to be a licensed PE, that's all.
So then we can't.
And obviously, I think the best time to do it would be after school. That's out in June, correct?
That
because we'd have to shut the water off for a day.
Yeah.
And in case of an overdose of chemical to start initially, I think you'd want to do it when there's not a population in the building.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, you gotta do
That's
it.
why George
off
Costanza
hours
knows
is
it right
probably
there.
best.
Nice.
You just have to encumber it before July 1.
Yeah, just gonna.
I'm wondering if we can install the system over a spring break and then activate it in the summer months. I don't know. But we will, yes. I'll let you, I'll fill you in with a plan,
If
cost.
you want to do spring break, you got a lot of work to do in the next 2 weeks.
Well, after tonight, the budget's behind me, so I got time.
No,
Yeah,
it's not behind you till May 1st there, buddy. Just remember that.
Never really behind.
It is probably best to do it over the summer months where you have, some control over the usage and you monitor the system. So it just requires testing, and you go out and monitor, and you get the results back, and then you optimize it and dial it in. So I'll put something together, and we'll present it to you, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion for the minutes of the work session meeting from February 7th?
So moved.
Dr. Peak, second.
Second.
Mr. Chili, questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can I have a motion for the minutes of the closed work session meeting from February 7th?
So moved.
Dr. Peak, second. Second. Mr. Chili, questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I have a motion for the minutes of the public meeting from February 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Dr. Peak, second.
Second.
Mr. Chili, questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
A motion for the minutes of the closed public meeting from February 14th, 2019.
So moved.
Dr. Peak, second.
Second.
Mr. Chili, questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Minutes of the special budget meeting from February 21st, 2019.
So moved.
Mr. Sweeney, second.
Second.
Mr. Chili, questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Chili?
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, move on to correspondence, Mr. Kepnes.
We've heard from Beverly Kelly, Donna Weatherwalks, Amanda Malajewski, Jacqueline Bryan, Brianna Space, Nancy Caparosa, Maureen Burns-Doolin, Joanne Howard, Susan Revis, Christine Ross, Kathy Zuckerman, Sherry Quinn, John Logie, then some leaves of absence, leaving and returning. So that's our correspondence.
Just like to thank our retirees for their years of service to this district. There's some very important names on that list.
And we did receive a note from Wesley Sanders
Yes.
and Matthew Chiruka.
Students.
Students.
Thanking the Board of Education. Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to President's Report. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the March 14th public meeting. During this meeting, the 1920 school year preliminary budget will be voted on. I say preliminary because this is the vote that moves the budget onto the county for their review. This vote, however, is not the final vote for the budget. That vote will take place when we have our public budget hearing that is set for May 1st. Between today and May 1st, the budget can be and will be continued to be worked on, and the final budget number can change up or down depending on circumstances. Items that can change the budget over the next 6 weeks could be more retirements, final benefit numbers once we look at other providers, and we get a better handle on our kindergarten numbers through registration, amongst other items. I'd like to thank Mr. Kepnes, Dr. McKay, and Ms. Davino for their hours and hours and hours of work on the budget. And I'd also like to thank all the BOE members who put in countless hours of meetings, not only at meetings, but with emails as well. It was no easy task and still continues to be an uneasy task. I want to give you some facts and some benchmarks for this and past budgets. In 2012, our operating budget was approximately $68.5 million, and the tax levy to the residents was about $41.5 million. That served 3,750 students. In 2016, our operating budget was $66.5 million, and the tax levy dropped to its lowest point ever at $37.7, with approximately 3,100 students on rolls. The budget for next year calls for a levy of $42.4 million and an operating budget of approximately $66.7 million, with a student population of approximately 2,950. This budget calls for 312 certificated and instructional personnel. That is down 27 from this year and down 74 since June of 2012. Last year in late February, early March, the state aid number that we were notified from the state for this school year would have been $25.1 million. That state aid number that we received just last Thursday was $22.6 million, $2.5 million less than just 12 months ago. Approximately $1 million was removed last July for this current school year, and the balance of $1.5 was removed number from last week. In July, the board directed Mr. Kepnes to apply for relief to the state DOE for the $1 million that was removed from last year. When Ms. Davino received the letter about the relief, that was dated October 26, 2018, and in its department findings it states, quote, the district has available bank cap of $3,627,030 to increase local levy in a future year, unquote. Bank cap is generated when the board approves a budget that does not increase the tax levy beyond the maximum of 2%. The bank cap was a result of past boards attempting to be fiscally responsible and not unnecessarily taxing our community by not automatically going to 2%. This letter will be printed in the minutes with my report, so there will be no need to open this letter. Also, I will add that on February 12th, there was an article entitled 8 School Districts Sue New Jersey DOE Over Cuts in State Aid in New Jersey Spotlight. In the article, it states some thoughts from Senate President Steve Sweeney. It says, quote, Sweeney said the problem for many of these districts and the reason that they were unprepared to deal with the cuts is that they have been under-taxing their communities for years, knowing that they would be getting adjustment aid to make up for any shortfalls, unquote. He acknowledges the fact that some districts will be unable to make up the lost aid solely by going to 2%. He states, quote, we should look at giving them the ability to make up just for what they lost, but that's a conversation we have to have with the Assembly. If you lose $1 million, you should be able to go and get that million, unquote. It appears that the state will be unwilling to revisit the issue on a district-by-district basis until the district uses up all of their bank cap. As of tonight, before we approve the budget, our cap bank, again, is at $3,627,030. Lastly, it was reported this morning that the 2 upper fields at Maple Grange have been closed until further notice due to safety reasons. Since I wrote this, there's been a plan to kind of reopen part of the fields. I want to assure everyone that the expense of Maple Grange is not part of our budget. While our schools utilize Maple Grange fields for sporting events throughout the school year, we do not share in the expense of those fields. Our current and past athletic directors have had a very good relationship with the PAL and the rec committee in town. They use our facilities at no expense, and we use their facilities at no expense. I personally spoke to Mr. Foley this morning when this news came out to see the status of our field at the high school. He told me our field was tested approximately a year ago and was well within safety standards and is due to be tested again this spring. That ends my report. We'll move on to letter K, committee reports. We have a ton of them. I think it's just easier to start with Justin and work that way and go over there if need be. Okay?
So I'll report on 2 meetings from the Healthcare Committee. The Healthcare Committee met on February 26th with our current broker, ELES, Inc. Present were myself, Mr. Sweeney, Ms. Buccieri, our central office administrators, and members of the VTEA and VTAA. The purpose of the meeting on February 26th was to take a critical look at self-insurance scenarios and the model that's been discussed by Integrity Health over the last few meetings. Our broker raised some concerns with acquiring adequate coverage and risk protection through the stop-loss policies, and those were questions that we brought to Integrity Health at subsequent meetings with them. We also discussed with our current broker our 7/1/19 renewal under a fully insured plan, potential premium increases, and what some of our options are going forward. On March 13th, the Healthcare Committee met again. Present were myself, Mr. Sparta, Steve Kepnes, and again members of the VTAA and VTEA. Discussed were the School Employee Health Benefits Program, that's otherwise known as the state plan. Steve provided a side-by-side comparison of rate increases for the last 3 years, comparing our district's increases with our fully insured plan to the state's plan increases. Some years were in our favor, while others were in the state's favor. So there was no clear consensus on, which plan fared better over the last 3 years. Discussion turned into some budgeting concerns that the committee had with the state benefits program. Our district, as you know, budgets on a school year basis. The state budgets on a calendar year basis. So what you could run into is in the middle of your budget year, having a premium increase to your health benefits for the final 6 months of our fiscal year, which could be a significant hurdle if you were to receive a double-digit increase.
Justin, was that all percentages, or was there any real dollar comparison?
Those were in percentages at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a little off too, because one's a January number, the other one's a June number, so
it's not apples to apples.
But again, if the base number is much lower, even a higher percentage is a lower dollar amount.
Right. Okay. The committee was also updated on a visit by certain members of the committee to the Somerset County Integrity Health Clinic. Just for members of the public and the board, as a reminder, one of the models for health benefits that the Healthcare Committee is evaluating is partnering with Integrity Health. They're a health benefits management company, and we would be under a self-funded insurance plan tied into a national carrier network, and we would also have an on-site healthcare clinic that would help to offset some of the costs of being self-funded. So before touring the facility, the committee members met with Integrity Health this February, to discuss some of the concerns that ELES brought to the committee, some of the concerns with self-funded models, whether we were a big enough district to go in that direction. And we received adequate assurances and information from Integrity Health that really put our minds at ease on some of those issues. The facility was beautiful. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Natalie.
Yeah, it was a very new facility. I think the whole building had just recently been constructed, but it was very thoughtfully laid out to where the pharmacy was located. So employees wouldn't have to go into the whole building. They could just walk into a foyer and with their prescription get their prescription filled and not have to go through the whole building. X-ray machine, lab tests, lab work, yeah.
Physical therapy.
Yeah.
Counseling.
Counseling, which again, very well thought out as far as confidentiality is concerned for that type of treatment. It was a really impressive building.
Right.
Definitely.
Since that visit, which was a very positive visit by everybody who was in attendance, Steve has been in contact with Integrity Health, providing them with the necessary information to put together financial projections for the district to see if this really is a good fit for us, for our size, for our experience rating, what it would cost the district, what it could save the district in the subsequent years.
That'll be the key, right?
Right. So the committee at this point has agreed that we believe it's time to bring Integrity Health to the board. They do a really thorough job at presenting this model, answering a lot of the concerns and questions, because, as you know, members of the committee were faculty, administrators, the people who this would affect the most, and all of their concerns and questions have been adequately answered every step of the way. So the committee feels that bringing Integrity Health to our April 17th meeting to present to the board, answer questions, present to any faculty that are in attendance, and
start to get this ball rolling. We're hoping by then we can even have some preliminary financial projections. Other than that, the committee agreed that whatever direction the district is going to move in, whether it's switching carriers in July, moving to the state health benefits program, or partnering with Integrity Health moving forward, that we should really try to make one move in the near future. We don't want to make a move and then 6 to 12 months following that make another move. It would be very disruptive for our faculty. It would be very disruptive for our central office staff and administrators. So, we're hoping to make one move. We're hoping to make the right move that can provide the benefits that our employees deserve and save the district money moving forward. So, that would conclude the healthcare committee report.
Do you have finance or no?
The finance committee is going to meet next Thursday.
Okay.
I believe so.
Next
Yes.
Thursday.
So you're good?
Yes, and Steve, you're as soon as you're done with this budget, we have 2021.
Yeah.
So you're not done.
Yeah.
It'll take a couple days though.
We'll be fine. A few days.
Take a couple days.
Natalie, do you have liaison?
We had to reschedule the liaison committee, so we're meeting next week.
Okay.
So I will have an update.
Michael, do you have anything?
We have a curriculum committee meeting 3 weeks ago, and myself, Brad, Lauren, Ms. Davino, and Dr. McKay were there. The main agenda item was curricular assessment, and all of the assessments from kindergarten starting all the way to PARCC testing, SAT assessments. So I think this particular curriculum committee is really on the central office to make sure that we have curriculum that will improve and make sure our students are successful and getting the most out of those programs that, math programs that you have to pay for, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The other main topic was integration of the curriculum. So how we can go from the grade school through the high school and weave activities that are at the high school, inject enthusiasm in those lower grades so that those students are learning, but then also get excited about various areas throughout our instruction. And in addition, trying to have after-school activities programs that weave into that integration from grade school through high school. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think you got it right. Teresa?
Okay, I'm going to be reporting on Special Services Committee. I actually have 4 different meetings to report on. But just so everyone understands, Special Services, I look at it, the committee as an umbrella, because we meet right now for 3 different reasons. We meet as a Special Services Committee, just when we all get together with the administration. We meet to discuss the restraint and seclusion policy. That's what we're working on currently. And also, we meet when the CPAG notifies us, we all sit down, and that's what I call CPAG administration board meetings. So we meet under, right now, 3 different aspects. So on February 28th, the Special Services Committee, the board member who was present was myself and Ms. Mitchell. Administrators was Ms. Davino, Ms. Merrill, Mr. Kendler, and Mrs. Von Salzen. And the business that we discussed was we welcomed Ms. Merrill, the new Director of Special Services, the BD program at Rolling Hills, long-term facilities needed for special services, the special education plans for 2019-2020, the Vernon Success Academy, the AccuPlacer test for concurrent credit between the high school and SCCC, the cosmetology CTE program regarding ratios, in-class resource in Vernon Township High School and Glen Meadow Middle School regarding health and world languages. There was a question, are in-class resource teachers being used as substitutes? We discussed waivers. And there was also, we were told, a very informative bus driver training. Mr. Kendler and Ms. Von Salzen gave an extensive training for bus drivers and working with students with special needs. And that was part of, the CPAC had brought that to our attention, and Ms. Davino had moved forward and helped them set up. But there was bus driver training. So, and the pending businesses, Ms. Davino will discuss with Dr. McKay and Dr. Connolly a streamlined process regarding concurrent classes between the high school and Sussex Community College, and clarification on the AccuPlacer test for our high school students with and without IEPs and 504s. Meaning if a student in the high school is taking a CTE class to get credits through Sussex Community, they have to, some of the programs require an AccuPlacer test, but we were saying if the student has an IEP, they have accommodations and modifications because they're our students under our roof. They're not college students yet. So what was being done for our current students, since they were technically not in college yet, what was being done for the AccuPlacer test for the students who were required to take it. So as soon as there's an answer or more clarification, we'll learn. But at this point, it was brought up, and Ms. Davino and Dr. McKay are going to be looking into that. The other meeting, one of the other ones was, this was yesterday, Wednesday, March 13th. It was a CPAG Administration Board meeting. The CPAG invited us to all come and sit down, which we did. And who was present from the CPAG was Charlene, the recording secretary, Michelle, the vice president, Leslie, the president, Ms. Davino, Karen, the superintendent, Adam, the supervisor, Deb, the director of special services, Cheryl, a supervisor, and board members were Brad and myself. And the agenda that they brought forward to us was their past accomplishments and their future vision, which was to improve quality of life moving forward for all of our students. That being understandable that we're not always going to agree, but to all please respect the fact that we should have respectful disagreements. Moving together on collaborating, they had asked if it was possible to have an open forum, a resource fair, and if that's something we can do in conjunction together. And both sides were very agreeable. So therefore, that's definitely something everyone would be really forward to looking into. They also brought up the aid training and a questionnaire, discussing with our aides what their interests are, because special education is so diverse, and there's so many different avenues to take, not just ages or grade levels, but actually different programs, and finding out what programs do the aides have a background in, a professional background, or have an interest, and possibly, you know, trying to meet their needs. There was a question over therapy starting and ending. One of the concerns is that there is, if I'm correct, 10 days in the fall. There's a lag when school first begins, and then at the end of the year, 8 days in the spring when they end. So looking to shorten that time frame moving forward, so that way there's not a lag for our students. Also, sensory spaces within the schools. Effective School Solutions, which is a counseling program, and where we offer it and when we're able to offer it, the CPAG would like to have it expanded. There was questions about the high school scheduling, and the CPAG was concerned how it was done in the sense of going into the English classes, and also if students have annual reviews late, let's say the spring, what happens if classes are full? You know, if a student has an IP which overrides a general schedule per se because of class placements, what happens with the students? And if I understood correctly, the IEP, you know, a schedule accommodation would be made since the IEP is late, right, and that, you know, the placement is important. And if there's any issues, to please talk with the case manager and guidance counselor. So also, there was questions about budgeting. They were wondering how this new budget would be affecting special education. Understandably, parents are very concerned. Also, they had a question about the playground equipment and what was moving forward on that, and also the parent handbook. They had asked to have the CPAG program included in the parent handbooks because, for example, the SCA is included, and could we please also have the CPAG included as well, and that would definitely be reviewed, we had mentioned. So that's the second one. Now, moving on to the third one, 3 and 4. This moves into a different part of the umbrella. Back in the fall, the Board of Education was asked if they would like to have a policy on restraint and seclusion. And the majority of board members said yes, because since restraint and seclusion is happening and there was a new law passed, would they want a policy on it? And since the majority of the board said yes, what we ended up doing was Special Services Committee took over moving forward on this policy, a little bit of an ad hoc in a sense within a committee. So we have met numerous times, but back on Thursday, February 21st, board members present was Lauren and Brad and myself. The administrators were Karen, Deb, Adam, Cheryl, and the other people present were Michelle, the CPAG Vice President, and Charlene, the Recording Secretary. The business discussed was creating a restraint and seclusion policy using the existing Strauss-Esme policy number 5561 with discussion of needs specific to Vernon Township School District. We made changes to the policy that reflected Vernon Township School District's needs with input from the CPAG leadership, administrators, and Board of Education, Special Services Committee members. The pending was the policy discussion changes will be reviewed by Strauss-Esme, that is our policy writer, to confirm the intent of the law is intact. So that was that meeting. Then we met again for Special Services Restraint and Seclusion on March 5th. And the administrators, I'm sorry, the board members present were Brad Spard and myself. The administrators were Ms. Davino, Ms. Merrill, Mr. Kendler, and Mrs. Von Salzen. And the other people who were present were the CPAG leadership team. Leslie is the president, Michelle is the vice president, Charlene is the recording secretary. The business discussed was the CPAG leadership team brought their members' thoughts and concerns forward in regard to the seclusion aspect of the policy to the attention of the Board of Education Committee and the administration. It was reported by the CPAG leadership they were thankful for the opportunity to be part of creating the RNS policy and regulation in a collaborative manner, but that their membership did not support seclusion at all, and that the best practice is to avoid seclusion. Their vision is a proactive, therapeutic approach that incorporates sensory activities, but does not include seclusion. Discussion also continued on using correct and compatible terminology, RNS practice of a local district, Pennsylvania Department of Education and Washington State Department of Education, RNS and IDEA, using data for decision making, the history of the BD program in the district, the overall goal of the RNS policy, and possibly adding a quarterly, at minimum, review of RNS data to the board, similar to what we do with the HIB, and RNS as a practice with either a policy or no policy, and can the policy and regulation be based on both restraint and seclusion, or seclusion only, or restraint only. And that will, go through all 4 meetings.
There's a discussion item on the agenda.
Yeah, tonight there's a discussion item to move forward on the restraint and seclusion policy.
Joe, do you have anything?
Yes, I'm sorry, I don't have something written up as official as Teresa, but I'm on the Community Relations Student Matters Committee, and we met last week. And Dr. McKay, Matt Shea were there, Mrs. Mitchell, Mr. Spard, and myself. And I don't have the agenda with me, but we discussed an advertise. Oh, you were there. Sorry.
Obviously forgettable.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
We discussed making videos for Kelly. I mean, Kelly's had a great idea about videos in the last meeting. Would you like to describe
Sure. So we are conducting a video for our Why Vernon campaign. Very exciting.
We're kicking off the Why Vernon campaign.
Yes, so it's a very exciting campaign that's going to show why the students, how they feel about Vernon, and it's going to be a great marketing piece and help bring the community together with businesses in the community as well. So we're very, very excited about that.
An added benefit is we are going to try to keep some of the students here in Vernon rather than them going to charter school or other schools that are available. So that was one of the items on the agenda. The other items.
We talked a little bit about some of the things that we have going on, and building on that, we're going to include Matt Shea as one of our founding members because of his abilities. And as a matter of fact, Matt and I got together this afternoon when we were doing his observation and brainstormed on some ideas that we're excited to talk about with the committee again. But the idea simply is that we have a new chief of police, Dan Young, and he had coffee with a cop last Friday. And at the bagel place in Vernon, there was more police officers than I've ever seen grouped in one place. And it was a real community feel. And I was talking with our committee about how wonderful it felt last year when we had the power outages and all that was going on to have one of our buildings, Glen Meadow, open and the community come for dinner. And within a couple of hours, this entire community fed itself by having volunteers from each of the restaurants come with food. It was the highlight, one of the highlights of my career. And I think that feel is what we're looking for with this committee.
Yeah,
So.
we want to bring the community in with us and show them what great things are going on here,
Yes.
and share with them. So we want to be very transparent. We're going to be doing our open house program as well. So that is going to help students and parents get together with Board of Ed members, and it's going to be a great thing. You know,
We're thinking of Saturday morning or Sunday morning tours as well. We do tours all the time now for new families, but one of the things that happens when you're selling a home is it's a weekend visit. So we're working on things that we can do in order to have great representatives or ambassadors, if you will, available and to tour one of our buildings and see all the great things we have. We often hear this when people come from other places to visit our community, and we bring them on a tour when they drive up the high school drive. And the whole building expands out with its beautiful flags and the incredible fields. And then they walk through the building and they see all of these programs and all that we do. There is a sense of awe, and it's great to see. And I think that we need to somehow get that out there to everyone.
In a way, we're an advertising committee, and we want to market
Market,
ourselves
yeah.
and improve our image. So it went very well, and unfortunately, every meeting we create more work for Dr. McKay and Matt Shea.
but they're always willing to do it, and we so appreciate it,
Of
especially
course,
to come out on a weekend all the time. It's very much appreciated, and I think that the community is definitely going to appreciate it.
And everybody
So
knows
thank
that working with Matt Shea and working with Ms. Davino and working with Steve, it's a joy. So we'll do it. We'll make it happen.
I know my children, want to be active, and it's sometimes difficult to get those 13, 14-year-olds volunteer hours for National Junior Honor Society.
You bet.
And just because, you have to be a certain age to do certain volunteer activities. And so this would be a great way to involve those kids that want volunteer hours or need volunteer hours for certain activities to get them. So.
And Dr. Peak, you put a T-shirt on them, you give them agency to talk about what's great about their school. Yep.
Do we have information on the students or families that choose to not go to Vernon? Are there top common themes?
Well, that's what Dr. McKay is working on now.
Yep.
Yeah, we've given him an assignment.
Yeah, but we send formal letters from our office with packets, and it goes out to the families that are thinking of choosing other schools. And then we have a dinner, light fare, sandwiches and things. And we have them, and we talk about the great things that we have in our building, and we show them videos, and we talk about the programs. And that has been successful. But we're now looking at a certain segment of our population in 5th grade through 7th grade, and we want to tell them all the great things that we can do. And as we talked about with our committee, the curriculum committee, we want them in clubs and activities after school with people who will then be their teachers in high school. We want that vertical articulation so that you're a Viking. Come on, we can do this.
We also asked Dr. McKay to call the ones that have already gone to other schools and say why. What are we missing? Why did you choose there? Rather than in an email or a survey or anything like that, personal phone call.
Oh, that's great. I'd love to understand that.
Yeah. There's just to see if there is a common theme amongst maybe there's two common themes that we need to address.
And the thought process begins earlier than Lounsbury Hollow. For parents and children.
Right. Right. But it's that ability to unify that vision is what Ms. Mitchell has brought to the committee. The idea of it's all of, why Vernon? What are we're doing? Because we did the professional video on the high school because we were very concerned 4 years ago about the loss of students to Pope John and to Votech, thus all the programs and everything we did. But as you said, there's other things that are happening earlier on, and that's what we need to get at with our committee. But we will get there. But it's a process, and it takes a while, right?
Yes.
So those of you that were at the CTE meeting the other night, when we finally have gotten those places to maturity, it's going to take 3 years, like it took before. But we'll get there. Yeah. At least I hope we'll get there.
We will. We'll get there. I'm confident.
Kelly, do you have a report?
I do not.
No, Mark, right? Lauren does, so Lauren's going to present.
I have a committee report on the Buildings and Grounds meeting. We held it February 22nd. Kelly and Justin and I were there. Brad, were you there?
I'm not on the board. I'm not on that committee anymore.
Did you come? You were here. You're listed on my...
I was on the old. I was at the old meeting.
I'm going to cross you off.
He's on everything. Write down his name now. Strike it out.
So we met with several different people during the course of that meeting. We started in the faculty cafeteria at the high school and received an update on the facilities-related update on the hospitality CTE grant-funded renovation of the faculty cafeteria and an update to the kitchen. All of this renovation work is all going to be funded through a CTE grant, part of which we already have, and then the next portion of which we will be receiving in the next calendar year. And so the committee learned about the intent of what was to be done to the cafeteria, and it really is just a cosmetic overhaul, all finishes and seating and things like that to improve the look and feel of the cafeteria, and then also some replacement and addition of equipment into the current high school kitchen for use by the CTE program as well as our current staff that works in the kitchen. And so the idea is that the hospitality CTE program will utilize the kitchen and cafeteria space to get the training that they need to satisfy the curricular requirements of this hospitality CTE program. And our kitchen staff and faculty will also continue to use those spaces, in the way that they do now, and perhaps more than they do now because of the kind of improved look and feel. We did talk quite a bit about, the coordination that would need to happen due to the nature of the fact that there would be students utilizing those spaces, and there's obviously a kind of logistical demand of utilizing the kitchen, utilizing that dining room. Faculty are in there, the staff is in there preparing meals, and so there's day-to-day use that needs to be that happen uninterrupted. But there's also a significant opportunity that Maureen Remner acknowledged and the other people we met with acknowledged about having the ability for students to shadow some of our kitchen staff and learn about how to work within an institutional type kitchen in an educational setting. We talked then very briefly about Rolling Hills and some of the drainage concerns there. And Steve has talked about some solutions to that. This is an ongoing issue that I don't know that it's been resolved, but we're getting into our wetter season, so if it hasn't been resolved, it will be resolved soon. Right.
We're going to pour a new ramp. Yes.
Okay. And see how that performs, and then...
Well, I want to see, we already did something that might allow for the drainage, but
right.
It might have been solved, but I want to pour a new ramp regardless, and the ramp would be sloped to avoid pooling.
Right. Okay. So, as it gets wetter and there's more ponding, I guess that's being observed and addressed, and if there continues to be a problem, we'll
Right. I mean, the concern was expressed that in the winter it ices over, so they can't
Yes.
use that door.
Right. But then presumably, if it's icing over, there's also huge puddles forming when it's not.
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be obvious if there's still a problem, and we'll keep looking at it until it's solved. The big conversation that we had during this meeting was with regard to the electrical project at the high school. At our work session, Steve acknowledged kind of a change in how that project is being approached. We had an opportunity to meet with one of the electricians from our maintenance staff and have him explain kind of the extent of the electrical that we have at the high school and the concerns about repair, replacement. We talked a little bit about some of the options, and then the committee requested that that Steve meet with other engineering firms, representatives from electrical companies, and other people knowledgeable about this type of work to see if there were alternatives to doing a complete overhaul of our electrical equipment. It turned out that yes, there is an alternative that is substantially cheaper than the complete replacement.
The last step is to get a gentleman out. I called him earlier. He called me back, so we haven't touched base. I need him to get out, but I think he's going to be able to, the one switch that we're concerned with is dismantle and rebuild that big switch.
Yeah.
And if that can be done, it's literally it's hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings.
That's
yeah.
Yes. Right.
And so the committee very much appreciates that you followed through on that request. And so I guess you'll let us know when you hear back and
Yes.
get a firm cost on that and project timeline. But we're also, that project had looked like it was going to last week's. This is now a day's worth of work, hopefully.
Exactly. My hope is that they can do it as soon as the high school gets out, whether it's late June, early July. The high school would be down, the power would be down for a day, so that he could get in, dismantle, put it back together. I'm excited to get this done.
For those watching at home, that would be late June for the high school.
Right.
If you said early July, people would be freaking out.
I just want to thank Lauren for her follow-up skills on that.
Absolutely.
She has saved us so much money because of her follow-up skills, so thank you for that,
Big
Lauren.
thank you.
I really
She's like a
appreciate
dog
that.
with a bone.
Yeah. I love that about her.
That was a compliment from Brad.
Just you folks come up with a better analogy. Better than a dog with a bone. I am persistent. If nothing else,
You
I am
are,
persistent.
and it was fabulous, and it saved us.
Thanks, Kelly.
Related to the
Countless dollars.
hospitality project, did we ever hear back from the architect on
not.
that? On that?
And we have not paid him, so no, I haven't.
Okay.
So is he just assuming that we're not paying for that failed bid?
Until I hear back from him, correct.
Now, that would have been grant funds, right, for?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So-
the pathway grant.
But that was for a grant period that ended February 28th,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
So is there any way to gain access to those funds again because that encumbrance
Yes,
fell
because the
through?
funds are already ours.
Yeah.
No, it needs to be fully expended. We have to cut the check. No,
I mean, for it to reallocate it to another grant-specific purpose.
we reconciled this. Let me get back to you. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a note that we're going to follow up on that. And then the other question that we had to kind of wrap up our meeting. We were encroaching on 2 hours, so we kind of wrapped up. But we talked very quickly about space usage. Initially just looking at the high school, but the committee did talk about a desire to look at how space is being used throughout all of our facilities throughout the district. We do, I don't want to speak for everyone, I do think this is another kind of comprehensive look, a comprehensive study. This is not a one-day turnaround kind of look. Steve did give us a plan with, an indication of which rooms are being used at the high school, and every single room is being used at the high school at some point during the day for the most part. So it's clear that if we are going to seriously look at our facilities, our buildings, how we're using things, you know, and do really kind of like a master planning study, it's going to take some time to really map that out and see, you know, do a real usage map. We also discussed, I believe at the meeting, yes, we did discuss at the meeting, we talked about the fact that we will be engaging in a strategic plan with the community, with other stakeholders, and so perhaps as part of that strategic planning, facilities is one of the topics that's looked at. That will be a decision made by the groups that form during strategic planning, but if that is a priority within, you know, of the board, of the stakeholders involved in strategic planning, then that's an opportunity to really get involved in that kind of look. If it ends up not being part of the strategic plan, we are going to have to, I think we will have to look at it in some way.
Sure.
So that's the totality of our meeting, and our meetings for buildings and grounds, we usually meet quarterly unless something big comes up, and generally there are a few smaller things to bundle into a big thing. So, you know, we don't have another meeting scheduled, but I'm sure we'll have one in the coming months.
All right.
All right.
That's all the reports, I think. We'll move on to letter L, public participation. This is for items on the agenda only and any other student comments. If you have any comments you'd like to make, please step up to the podium, state your name, section of town you're from, and you will have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is on. Can you hear me?
It's for the home viewers.
Oh, okay. Good evening. My name is Candace Stout. I'm an LDTC in the high school, and I would like to address the board, please. Before I do that, I'm going to hand out some things to all of you, please.
You hand them to me, and then I'll distribute them.
Great, that would be fine. It's just enough copies for the board members. Thank you. I received this letter of March 8th, 2019, noting that there were going to be staff reductions, and that at the March 14th, 2019 board meeting, it would be recommended not to renew my employment contract for the 2019-2020 time period. I requested that any discussion about my employment be held during the public session and not in private, and that I be added to the board agenda and the board minutes. I reviewed the public meeting agenda and have noticed that my name was not added to the agenda. On March 13th, I asked my supervisors, Adam Kendler and Deborah Merrill, who else from our department is being let go. They would not answer me.
Ms. Stout, I just want to remind you that the people that you work with have rights as well. So if you need to take that into consideration with your comments also. That's what our statement is in the agenda for.
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
Well, the statement that's in the agenda basically says that employees and students in the district have rights, and you know, those rights are to be adhered to, and you are putting yourself at subject if you make comments that violates those rights with those people.
Okay,
We simply asked to try to refrain from any disparaging comments against other that might be against other employees or other folks in the district.
Okay, perhaps it would be better if the board then read my packet, and if you'd like me to address it with my attorney and you at a future date, that might be an appropriate form, if that's better.
Yeah, if everything you wanted to stay is in the packet?
I believe so, is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that'd be best, just because I wouldn't want to see you in any type of peril by announcing people's names and stuff like that, and for something that you think is fine but actually is not. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Macbeth, residing on Highland Lakes, and I'm a lifelong resident of Vernon, a parent to 3 children who are the 4th generation to live in this town, and the president of the Vernon Township CPAG. About 2 years ago, when the opportunity presented itself for us to move elsewhere, we chose to stay. despite some past issues with the school district, because we believe in Vernon and what it can be. Establishing a CPAG has been so important to me and to the community, for parents of special education children to feel heard and to make positive changes for our students together in collaboration with the administration and the Board of Ed. Being a part of such an amazing group of parents has truly helped heal some of the past, and I continue to look forward to seeing what improvements our future holds. While we have been honored to be included in the recent Restraint and Seclusion Policy Committee, this has also brought concerns to light. Truthfully, it has also further educated me on R&S. I'm here tonight with a future vision. I would like to ask you to collaborate with us and take a stand together to discontinue the practice of seclusion for our special education students. Seclusion is defined as the involuntary confinement of a student alone in a room from which the student is physically prevented from leaving. This includes situations where a door may be locked, as well as where the door is blocked or it is held shut from the outside by staff. The Keeping All Students Safe Act, which was introduced to the House in November 2018, calls to prohibit and prevent seclusion and to prevent and reduce the use of physical restraint in schools. It also aims to ensure the safety of all students and school personnel in schools and promote a positive school culture and climate. Taking some excerpts from the Keeping All Students Safe Act, Section 2, I won't read it all, it's very lengthy. Number 1, restraint and seclusion have resulted in serious physical injury, psychological trauma, and death to students in public and private schools. 2, all students have the right to be free from physical and mental abuse. 3, safe, effective, evidence-based strategies are available to support children who display challenging behaviors in school settings. Training for staff focused on the dangers of restraint and seclusion, as well as training in evidence-based positive behavior supports, de-escalation techniques, and physical restraint and seclusion prevention can reduce the incident of injury, trauma, and death. 4, school personnel have the right to work in a safe environment and should be provided training, resources, and support to prevent injury and trauma to themselves and others. Now I'm going to jump to number 8. Research confirms that restraint and seclusion are not therapeutic, nor are these practices effective means to calm, discipline, or teach children, and they may have the opposite effect while simultaneously decreasing a child's ability to learn. I have heard administrators and principals talk about being innovative. Our robotics program, our growth of CST programs in the high school. Let's take this issue and let's be innovative. Let us end the practice of seclusion in our district while instead providing therapeutic, evidence-based programs to help our most fragile population. There are schools in New Jersey that choose not to seclude even though they legally can. Let's be one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Fulton, and I reside in Glen Harbor. I am the Vice President of the Vernon Special Education Parent Advisory Group, a special education teacher, and a concerned parent. I am here tonight to ask you to end seclusion in the Vernon Township School District. The CPAG is grateful to have the opportunity to collaborate with administration as well as the Special Services Committee to develop a restraint and seclusion policy, though our meetings have shed light on a practice that we feel should be discontinued. According to an article titled "How Safe is Our Schoolhouse? An Analysis of State and Seclusion Laws and Policies" by Jessica Butler, whose email address is jessica@jnba.net, which was published by the Autism National Committee and can be found at autcom.org. As of December 31st, 2016, 38 states define seclusion as a room or space in which a child is involuntarily confined and physically prevented from leaving. Students in seclusion across this country have been traumatized, injured, and even died. Sometimes students remain in seclusion until they can do tasks unrelated to an emergency, but children with significant disabilities may be unable to respond to such commands and yet pose no threat of danger. In 2004, a 13-year-old in Georgia named Jonathan King hung himself in a seclusion room, dying as a school staff member sat outside, monitoring him by listening for him to be quiet. According to Ms. Butler's article, 5 states ban all seclusion for children with disabilities, including Georgia, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Hawaii, and Texas. A second group of 13 states forbid all or most forms of locked seclusion in their seclusion rules. Of these, 10 ban it in their statutes and regulations for all children, 13 for children with disabilities. Alabama, Arkansas, Kentucky, Maine, Montana, except in certain residential treatment facilities, Michigan, Mississippi, New York, Ohio, Utah, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. New Mexico is included here too. It only has seclusion guidelines, but they point out that locked seclusion is a fire code violation in the state. Restraint and seclusion can expose children to danger and can escalate difficult behaviors, worsening the situation and interfering with the learning process. Research shows that preventative interventions, conflict resolution, and de-escalation often resolve challenging situations and help prevent the use of seclusion and restraint. These supports keep everyone safer and make classrooms more conducive to learning. According to Daniel Crimmins, director at the Center for Leadership and Disability at Georgia State University, positive supports and interventions, de-escalation, conflict management, and other positive strategies can virtually eliminate use of restraint and seclusion. Behaviors that could result in restraint and seclusion are oftentimes predictable and can be avoided when staff performs functional assessments, understands what triggers the behaviors, and builds supports and de-escalation techniques that prevent situations from becoming dangerous. Virginia Treatment Center for Children is a hospital that switched to collaborative problem solving to de-escalate and prevent challenging situations. According to this article, VTC was seclusion and restraint free, and workers' compensation claims dropped from $530,000 to $15,000. Jessica Butler points out in this article, if a hospital program can have this success, so can a school. Please know that while we have come here tonight to ask you to end seclusion in Vernon, we do not plan on stopping here, as we do feel that the laws need to be changed at the state level. Restraint and seclusion was not originally on the agenda tonight. I'm not sure the entire community was aware this was going to be discussed. I ask you, please digest my words, complete your research. We are extremely hopeful you will make the best decision and protect the most vulnerable members of our community, because they need you now more than ever. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Hi, Charlene O'Brien. I brought some material to hand out.
Thank you. How many are here?
14. I'm the recording secretary for the Vernon Township CPAG. I wanted to thank Teresa for capturing all our hard work and all our effort in the Restraint and Seclusion Policy Writing Committee. It's in our best interest, and with great respect for our collaboration that I come up here tonight. But the Vernon Township CPAG leadership team, Leslie, Michelle, and myself, would ask that the use of seclusion become a practice of the past. We recognize the ultimate responsibility the district has in maintaining the safety of all children and staff daily. We also understand that every child is entitled to a free and public education in the least restrictive environment. The CPAG leadership team is in full support to replace the practice of seclusion towards evidence-based practices, more therapeutic environments, strengthening the culture and the climate of the school, and wiping out stigma while meeting the needs of all children. It is also clear that seclusion and restraint reduction and elimination requires evidence-based preventative interventions at individual staff and management levels. Therapeutic structures and processes must be in place to prevent behavioral emergencies and to support the implementation of alternatives. In those packets that I just handed out, we have provided information which supports the request of omitting the practice of seclusion and not adopting it into the Vernon Township School District policy. Enclosed are evidence-based practices at school, a guide for parents, the American Psychiatric Nurses Association position statement on the use of seclusion and restraint, revised in 2018, the Pennsylvania Seclusion and Restraints Reduction Initiative, and use of restraints for students with disabilities, the State of Pennsylvania Code. In 1997, the Pennsylvania Department of Public Welfare instituted an aggressive program to reduce and ultimately eliminate seclusion and restraints on its 9 state hospitals. By October of 2000, Pennsylvania Seclusion and Restraint Reduction Initiative received the prestigious Harvard University Innovations in America Government Award. Pennsylvania's hospitals experienced no increase in staff injuries. In addition, its changes were implemented without any additional funds, using only existing staff and resources. If you look at the Pennsylvania compilation of school discipline laws and regulations, there is no relevant law found on the use of restraint seclusion. However, the regulation code is titled Positive Behavior Support, which go on to explain just that. Seclusion is not an evidence-based practice. Research proved it to be quite the contrary. Throughout American history, there have been many social movements that have changed the world. As part of the Vernon Township CPAG leadership team, I asked the board this evening to put an end to the use of seclusion in the Vernon School District. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Domingo Galdos, Spook Ridge Road. I am here to voice and record my objection to what you, Mr. President, Mr. Sparta, said to Ms. Stout. The statements that she had prepared to deliver to this Board of Education are all statements of facts. They are not saying something bad about anybody. They are statements of fact, evidenced by appropriate facts and evidence. Now, unfortunately, she was not able to speak because she got intimidated.
No, that's not the case, sir.
Let me finish, sir.
I will, and then I will respond.
Let me finish. You can respond, absolutely. These statements and these facts are needed to come forward. And the voters and taxpayers of this township, the Vernon Township, must know what's going on in certain areas of the school district. The school district is a great school district, but there are some problems and imperfections, and the people must know, and they will know. If and when Ms. Stout decides to seek additional relief, then this will all be public. This is all opera. This has to be public. There shouldn't be any hiding of facts or complaints or anything in this township, in Sussex County, or anywhere in New Jersey. I am a Sussex County committeeman. I am here speaking not as in my official capacity, but as a private citizen. I happen to be Ms. Stout's husband. So again, I want to record my objection, my strong objection to any, how would I say it, any stopping of people putting facts forward and saying what has to be said. Thank you.
Okay, so now I'll respond. First of all, we are not intimidated, okay? Second of all, the situation that Ms. Stout was going to discuss involves another employee. That employee has rights. Now, just scanning her statement that she gave us, there are at least 2 paragraphs when I scanned it quickly that if she were to continue, would have put her in peril with the other employee. So, in actuality, we probably did her a favor by not letting her continue, because she would have herself had an issue with, like I said, just scanning it quickly since she gave it to us, with at least 2 paragraphs, and that's why. If the incident, if she could describe the incident without using other people's names, it could be fine. But that's not what she was. If she was going to read this statement as she posed it, she would have had issues. That's why I stopped her.
That's fine, but let me tell you, this will become public.
That's fine. It will be. That's no problem.
There's nothing that can stop it.
No, you're absolutely right. There is nothing that can stop it. But also, it was the protection of her and the protection of the other employee. I understand that Ms. Stout wants to have her side heard publicly, and that is fine. But when the other side does not want to have it heard publicly, it's a very fine line as to what Ms. Stout can say in public. That's why I cautioned her. That's why we have this statement in our agenda.
I read the statement,
okay.
sir.
And the statement, if you read it, she would be at peril if she continued with her statement. Now, if she would, if she
agree with you, but that's
if
fine.
she would like to refine her statement before the end of the meeting tonight, she can discuss it again at the next closed session. If she would like to have it refined by her attorney, so she is not put in peril, she is more than welcome to come back at our April 10th meeting and discuss it then as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Martin O'Donnell. I moved into Vernon about 2 years ago. And
What section?
Highland Lakes.
Okay.
And I really just came tonight to sit and listen, but some of the things that you folks had said tonight motivated me to come up and give you some feedback. One of the things that was mentioned was the touring of the schools.
Right.
When we came from Rockland County, and when we were looking for a place to live, I have 3 children in the school district, one in high school, one in Glen Meadow, and one in Lounsbury. So it was very important to us not only to find a place that we could call home, but some place where our kids could grow up and get a good education. So I have to say that when we did the tours of the schools, it was very impressive, in particular the high school. And I remember it vividly because when two things stand out, and just again, this just to give you feedback, 2 things stand out. When we went into the arts department, okay, in high school, the teacher that was in the arts department, I do forget her name, but she was very impressive, very
Probably Ms.
dedicated.
Herkler.
What's that?
Probably Ms. Herkler.
I think so. But very dedicated to the children, very dedicated to what she was doing. The second place that stands out was the engineering lab, probably because I have an electrical engineering background, but it was very impressive on how the teacher exposed the kids to all the different types of engineering and some of the equipment that you guys had there and that type of thing. So we toured other schools in the area and decided that this was where we wanted to be. So again, we ended up moving in here. I also have my middle daughter has an IEP, and I will tell you that that kid has come leaps and bounds in the last 2 years. I mean, the last 8 years combined, she hadn't made the progress that she made here in a year and a half. So hats off to that program. And in addition, my oldest one, she's not really like the math and English person, you know. And she got into your cosmetology program, okay? And at the beginning of this year, the cosmetology program was, I'm going to say, less than stellar. And I guess this new teacher came into the cosmetology program this year, and she's incredible. She has all the kids engaged. She has them doing things outside of school to further pursue their knowledge in cosmetology. And so I just wanted to come up here and give you guys a little bit of feedback from somebody who's been in the town a short time and came here from somewhere else.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Tell your friends.
We're going to shoot a video with you, sir.
He's in my Why Vernon.
Yep. Anybody else from the public wish to make a comment? With that, I'll close it to the public. We'll move on to letter M, Superintendent's Report, Informational Matters.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sparta. So under informational matters, we're pleased to announce the Glen Meadow Middle School students as the District Artists of the Month for March. Their artwork is being displayed at the board office and at Glen Meadow during the month of March. This month we are highlighting our 8th grade art students. They've done a wonderful job, and it decorates our foyer every time that we are over at the board office. Letter B.
Yep.
Cedar Mountain Primary School teachers, Mrs. Nicole Hartman, Mrs. Christina Mignon, Ms. Cindy Thomas, and Mrs. Heather Zinni have been invited to attend on scholarship the Elevating and Celebrating Effective Teaching and Teachers Conference, also known as ECET2, on April 5th and 6th, 2019. This conference is a forum for exceptional teachers to learn from one another and to celebrate the teaching profession. The teachers recommended having demonstrated highly effective classroom and teacher leadership skills will be sharing their practice with other teachers ECET2 is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I'd like to congratulate those teachers. It's not just any conference that you can be accepted into. I was lucky enough to attend 2 years ago. It's quite an exceptional conference, so congratulations for those teachers. I know they will get a tremendous amount out of that. May I go on to number 2?
Could I ask, how did they come to be recommended for the program? Or was it things that they did in their classrooms, or?
Yes, you have to apply for acceptance into the program, and then you're evaluated based on the skills that you've demonstrated in the classroom. So highly effective teaching strategies, engagement strategies, and it's a small conference, but it keeps it really intimate so that the teachers have the opportunity to learn from others and then bring that back to our district.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great. Number 2, I'd be going to the addendum.
Starts
To
here.
right.
Starts here.
Right, okay. Recommendations. It is recommended that the board approve the following faculty, staff resignations, retirements, terminations, leaves, transfers,
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to shut that off.
assignment changes, appointments, stipends, salary adjustments, student teaching, mentoring as listed. They're listed on the table for the Board of Education in your agenda.
It starts on
About
page
2
4,
pages.
goes to 5, and continues to, on the addendum, page 1. Can I have a motion for 2A, please?
So moved.
Mr. Sweeney, seconded. Dr. Peak. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call roll.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon?
Yes.
Mrs. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under letter B, it is recommended that the board approve professional development travel that complies with the provisions of New Jersey statutes annotated NJSA 18A:11-12, attachment A.
Motion for 2B, please.
So moved.
Dr. Peak, second.
Second.
Who is that?
Me,
Ms.
Natalie.
Bucieri. Questions or comments? Roll call vote.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon?
Yes.
Mrs. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Letter C, it is recommended that the board approve the harassment, intimidation, and bullying, school safety, and random drug testing reports.
Motion for 2, we're C or D?
C.
C. Motion for 2C, please.
So moved.
Dr. Peak, second.
Second.
Mr. Chili, questions or comments?
There's nothing on it.
No, it's a 0.
No,
Yeah,
last
zero. No
week it
reports.
was 0.
Yeah, 0.
Yeah.
So then, why?
You still have to approve it,
Okay.
that it was
All right.
0.
Thank you.
The report comes from Scott Wallach's office, and it's just, it states it's a 0.
Right.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Annunziata?
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri?
Yes.
Mr. Schilling?
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon?
Yes.
Mrs. McGee?
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell?
Yes.
Dr. Peak?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Sparta?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Letter D, it is recommended that the board approve high school students to earn 125 credits as a graduation requirement for the 1920 school year.
Motion for 2D, please.
So moved.
Dr. Peak, second.
Second.
Ms. McGee, questions or comments?
This means incoming freshmen, or
No, at the
Right.
present time, we're making it 125. We've talked about raising it.
I thought we did raise it to
And we
140.
did, yeah, and we did. But we're concerned about certain students who are on credit retrieval not being able to graduate. And since our graduation rate is part of our evaluation process at the high school, we'd like to make sure that we have this in place so that our students can graduate.
what is it now?
140, isn't it?
40.
Oh, I see.
But we had raised it from 125.
And that was the
I thought
whole,
so.
that was the whole preface of going to the 9-period back.
9-period.
Right, and the 8th grade being able to take classes. So our very skilled students have no problems getting 145 or